The next bonsai I'll be working on today is my aloe vera bonsai. Both the crown of thorns and the aloe vera have really surprised me as a bonsai. They react in a predictable manner when pruned. My aloe is growing all kinds of aerial roots. It's getting all kinds of upright trunks on it. It's looking fantastic in my eyes. I really enjoy growing this aloe bonsai. So today I'm going to start by cleaning up the tree, removing a lot of the lower leaves. It's starting to get very congested and hard to see in at the trunks and the aerial roots. From this angle, you can see the aerial roots that are growing in. They're kind of raining down almost like a curtain fig, going down into the ground. So I want to continue that styling, almost a tropical banyan style to this aloe planting. There's the aerial roots in there. And I think as this planting grows, it'll need more space for aerial roots to drop down in the soil. You can see there's one coming down here. And if I don't put a larger pot underneath, it'll probably, go past the lip of the pot and maybe dry up. Possible anyway. Some of them, there's one over here. You can see it's just made it inside the pot there. So I want more of a landscape pot underneath this so it can drop more aerial roots and kind of expand its footprint like a banyan tree. In order to keep these aloes growing upright, I need to remove weight off the bottom parts of the stems. So I just come in with the scissors. You can see there's a leaf down low on this one. And I come in and I just snip it off at the base here, like that. And there's another one growing really low here. I'll just come in and snip it off. There's one here I can do. And remove it. I'll continue to go around the base of all these trunks and prune off the lower branches. Some of them are already, starting to go soft and they'd fall off anyway, but there's another aerial root dropping here. That one probably wouldn't make it into the pot. It would grow over the lip. So definitely needs a bigger pot. There's one on the inside here. I'm going to remove this leaf. There's a shoot growing up behind it that I need to remove a leaf. There's a large vertical one here I need to remove. Like that. I'll remove this lowest one here. Removing these leaves does decrease the vigor of the tree, but it keeps the form. It keeps that upright form on the tree. I'll even remove this lowest one here. It's getting a little large and heavy. I can remove this one also. And there's no rules for removing these. It's just whatever you think looks good. Here's an old leaf that's dried up. Another one here. The moss that you see on the surface of the soil here, it just grew in there naturally. I didn't plant it. I will be repotting this tree today, so I may have to take a fair amount of weight off the top so it's not so top heavy when I go to repot it. One here. That one just is about ready to fall off. It's very soft at the base. There's the remains of one here I've got to get rid of. There. There's one here I can remove. Like that. There's another one here. Another one kind of flopping down here. Just got to find the base of it. There it is. I don't want all these long ones trailing and, hitting the bench top. There's some that are crisscrossing over top of each other here. I'll get rid of some of those too. Kind of shading out some of the developing shoots. We want to get lots of ramification on this if possible. Pull some of these old leaves off here, the remains of them. You see there's a new branch forming there. Yeah, they're a great plant to turn into a bonsai. I really like them. I'm going to take this one off that's growing towards the inside here. It's kind of shading out a lot of other branches. Maybe this one too. And there's one on the inside here I can get. Like that. And one here. There. This one has a lot of growth on it. I'm going to take this one back. This one's crossing another couple of branches. I'll get rid of that one. You can clearly see all the aerial roots on the aloe now. They're even growing out of the drainage hole here. So to grow aerial roots on an aloe, you need it in a humid environment, but you can't water it a whole lot or the roots will start rotting. So what I do is I mist it. So I just get my misting bottle. I just kind of mist it all around. That keeps my soil dry, but it keeps the plants really well hydrated and the roots. And you'll find you'll get all kinds of nice aerial roots growing all over your aloe. Here's a look at the 2 new pots I got and my possible choices for repotting the aloe. This one, I think, it's only a little bit longer. It would catch a few more of these aerial roots, but I think it's too small. I think this aloe is going to probably double its size in the next year. So I think this pot is the more suitable pot. It's about the same height. It's just larger in dimensions. And I think as these branches start to spread out, getting more branches, it'll drop more and more aerial roots and kind of expand that root base into almost a banyan style. So this will be the pot I'm repotting it into. I'll have to remove my $4.99 sticker. Boy, that was a good bargain. Like that. There's 2 sides to the pot. This is the front probably. This side kind of has a glaze that comes down. Depending on what look you're going for, some people might choose this as the front of the pot with the glaze kind of hanging down. It makes a more interesting look to the pot. I kind of prefer the plain side. To me, that just, yeah, I just like it. It has a bit of coloration here and the color of the feet, which actually matches the aerial roots in the aloe quite nicely. This will be the front for me. I'll cut a drainage screen for the bottom of the pot. I'll just use one large screen. One large screen always makes it easier to lift the tree out of the pot. Your soil doesn't crumble away. It kind of holds it all in place. So that's why I use one large drainage screen. That should fit quite nicely. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good in the bottom of the pot there. And I'll put a base layer of soil in. And I'm not going to bare root the aloe because the roots are all in this soil. And in the end, I don't think you'll see much of a radial root base on this tree or this plant. So I'm just going to slip pot it in here, put new soil around it, and that'll give it lots of room to grow and lots of room for those aerial roots to drop down into the new soil. I had to go outside and get my soil, and I noticed even though I had it under cover, it's pouring rain out there and it got wet, so I'll be putting wet soil in here, which is all right. So I'm just adding a base layer. And then I'll get the tree out of the pot and position it in the new pot. And then fill in the soil around it. All right, the next step is to get the tree out of the pot, and I'll have to snip that. Move this back a bit. I'll have to snip that root on the bottom here. Actually, there's quite a few roots on the bottom. If you can see that, there's 1, 2, 3 of them. So I'll have to snip those to get it out of the pot. So I'll come in here. Just snip them away. Like that. They smell good, the roots. Then I'll come in and I'll loosen up the plant from the edges of the pot. I don't know whether to call this a tree or a plant, or I guess if I just call it a bonsai. Bonsai means a tray planting, or a plant in a tray, or a plant in a pot. Doesn't necessarily have to be a tree. Yeah, it's quite packed in here. I'm having quite a bit of trouble getting the tool in here to loosen it up. It's obviously full of roots, especially in some sections. Feels quite tight. Okay, let's see if it comes out now, and I'll have to do this. There's a rock in here that I held the tree in place after I repotted it last time, so I can probably take that out. I'm going to, I don't know, I can't poke my finger up through the drainage holes, they're too small. I'm going to try and grab the tree and kind of lift it carefully, hoping I don't break off any aerial roots. Oh, okay, that's not going to work. They're a little tighter than I thought. I'll have to, yeah, they're pretty tightly packed. I'm already broke off a little pup from the tree. Wow, there's a lot of roots in here, I think. All right, let's try again here. Trying to lift it as gently as possible. There it comes. Okay. That's a lot of roots. I'm going to remove that rock that's in here. There's my aerial root, just broke off, see? Too bad. However, it will grow more. It'll grow more branches and more aerial roots for sure. So I'm going to try and remove that rock. There it goes. You see there's just a mass of roots underneath that rock. So I'll take all the pot away. I'm wondering if I should rake out the roots a bit. I'll lose that nice moss on top, but you know, that's not that important. Okay, here I go. I'm going to try and rake it away at the surface here. I'll get more moss growing in, don't worry. There's another rock in here, I think, that was anchoring the tree down. Wow, it's really surrounded by roots. I can hardly get the rock out. There it is. There's the other rock that was in there. Yeah, I better rake out these roots a bit. They're kind of circling around the pot. If you look on this side of the pot, they're just all matted here. They need raking out, and we do want nice roots on this aloe. You know, there's not a lot of aloe bonsais in the world, so let's make it a good one, I say. The root base is nice and flat on the bottom, so I'm going to keep that part of it. That'll help it stay upright in the new pot. So I won't have to use those rocks, I don't think. I'll just comb out all these surface roots. And then, you know, sometime in the future, when I go to repot it, I can prune off that flat bottom and kind of regrow those roots on the bottom. For now, I'm just kind of concerned about getting these surface roots combed out. They're fairly fragile, they break easily. So, I think that's going to be about it. I've got it exposed down to the root base here. Now I have an option for picking a new front for the tree if I want to. So I will turn it around and check it from all angles and pick the best front. Okay, I've got the camera down, kind of looking at the front, and I'm going to rotate it around. So I'm looking for a nice wide spreading base. It's pretty good in this view. This view has all the aerial roots, and the older trunks are visible in this view. This view is pretty good too. It's got all those aerial roots forming. Let's untangle a few more of these roots here. Like that. That's a nice view too. Tough choices. Looks good from almost every angle. Every angle's different, that's for sure. I do like the width from this view. Let me look at the 90 degrees to that, is that view. And that shows the area roots. I think I'm going to go with that view, kind of right about there. I think that kind of looks the widest and shows off the aerial roots. Yeah, I think that's going to be the front view for the tree. So I'll place it in the pot now. I'll bring the pot down here and lift it very carefully. Place it in the pot. And I've got it kind of on center now, and then I'll adjust the position later on. Somewhere around there. I'm looking at the front of the planting, and you're kind of looking in more at a side view. So I'm just positioning the plant in the pot now. It has a little more branching on this side, so I'm going to offset it the opposite direction, so just slightly off center. Actually, it looks pretty good there. And I'll put a little more soil on this side to straighten it out a bit. It's a little bit, looks a little bit crooked, so. I just need a little more soil in here. I'll work that in underneath the root base to kind of tilt the tree a bit. The height in the pot, I have it quite high at the moment, and it would show a lot of the roots, which could look quite good. I'm not sure if I should do that or not, if all these upper surface roots would die off, dry out. So maybe I'll try and get it a little lower in the pot. That's a little better. That's probably as low as I can kind of reasonably get it without cutting a lot of roots off. I think that's looking quite good. I'm just going to bring it on center a little more. Yeah, that looks good right there. I can fill in the soil now. And I'll have to work this all in to the root base. I'm making sure all my surface roots are nicely combed out. Like that. Spread a nice radial pattern. It's looking good. Okay, let's get it worked in now. It's hard to work in when it's wet. I should have let it dry out, I guess, but I had it underneath a bench, and I guess it rained hard enough that the water ran through the slats in the bench, and somehow I got my soil all soaked. So I'll put the aloe up on the table so you can kind of get a better view of what it's looking like before I get too far. Here's what the aloe looks like now. You can see I've exposed quite a bit more of the root base, and I've still got to work this soil in, but I think it's looking quite nice, the composition, and to me, I like it. I think it's a fantastic, interesting bonsai. All right, I'll keep adding soil. Working it in. I just want the soil level just below the lip of the pot. That leaves a bit of room for moss. That'll kind of grow up almost even with the lip of the pot. I will mound the soil just slightly in the middle, covering up a little bit of those roots. I think the roots will survive fine. I mean, it grows aerial roots, so as long as I keep them misted and in a humid environment, those aerial roots and the surface roots should do really well. More soil back here. I've got the plant quite far back in the pot to give a lot more room up front for aerial roots and that. So you can see from the side view, you can see there's more space in the front of the planting than there is at the back. And that's just for future styling of all those aerial roots. I've got the soil worked in, and I'm just doing a final smoothing here. Smoothing and compacting of the soil a bit. There's lots of air spaces in this soil, so because the soil's wet, it's not really a worry for me. There's still lots of foliage on the plant to, you know, use this moisture in the soil. So we'll see what happens with all those surface roots. I'll just give those a mist. Give the whole tree kind of a mist. So this mister is very fine, and it doesn't really wet the soil at all. It just kind of coats the plant with a nice fine layer of water. Like that. There's a look at the aloe now. It's looking quite good, I think. It's all cleaned up now. I was debating whether I should put moss on the top of the soil, and I think I'll leave it off for now, just until that soil kind of dries out a bit, and we'll save that for another video, putting moss around the surface. Progress was made on two very unusual bonsais. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me today in the Bonsai Zone.